Hi everybody. So end of the week summary, looking at enzymes, and we've already set up a little demonstration here with my daughter to help me looking at apples and an enzyme that produces that brown stuff like on a bruise. So we already have a couple things set up. Let me just let you see. So we have an apple here that we just cut. So we have one with nothing happening. So then Elizabeth's going to add a few different things to these. So go ahead and add the Fruit Fresh, just sprinkle a little bit on there. This is just ascorbic acid, which is vitamin C, but acid is what kind of should stand out there. So remember, enzymes can be affected by temperature and pH. So the ascorbic acid would lower the pH. We also have lemon juice, so just squeeze a little bit of the lemon juice on the apple. No, on that one with nothing on it, yep. So we're going to add the lemon juice. Again, lemon juice is acidic, so very similar to kind of the Fruit Fresh there. So it's going to lower the pH, so we'll see what effect that has on the enzyme. And then the other one's one we didn't talk about. She's going to go ahead and sprinkle some salt on this one. So salt, in addition to, that's good, just a little bit. So salt, as well as temperature and pH, can affect the enzyme. So it can cause enzymes to denature. We also have one in the refrigerator that we'll come back to in just a minute. So while those are setting, I want to just talk a little bit about the enzymes, which of course is the important concept here. There's an enzyme in plants called catechol oxidase, and it combines with a substrate catechol and oxygen. So normally what happens in the cell are these two are separated. So the enzyme is going to be stored in vesicles. So remember, vesicles that help with endocytosis and exocytosis. So they package the enzyme in vesicles so it stays away from the substrate. Okay, because catechol is just kind of hanging out inside of the cell. But the reason we don't normally get a reaction is because the enzyme and substrate are separate. So even though the enzyme's in the cell, it's not really active because there's no substrate. Well, whenever we cut the potato or the enzyme, or there's some type of damage to the plant, what happens is it mixes, it breaks those vesicles, and it puts the substrate and enzyme together. So the catechol can mix with the catechol oxidase and oxygen that we've just added by cutting it, or if it gets pricked or damaged in some way. Well, that's what produces the brown product called benzoquinone. And it actually has antimicrobial properties, so it tries to prevent an infection once there's some type of damage. So again, kind of the bruise on an apple, there was a damage to the plant. It produced the benzoquinone so that bacteria didn't get in and start damaging the plant. Okay, so remember, enzymes and substrates bind at the active site on the enzyme, and then they produce a product. But just because the enzyme's there doesn't mean it's active. There are things that can control the activity of the enzyme. So like keeping them separate from their substrate, which is what happens in the plants. But also environmental things like temperature, pH, and again, talking today a little bit about salt as well, they can denature the enzyme. And again, denatured means that it's losing its shape, so it's no longer functional because the active site isn't in its right shape. So the substrates can't bind to them. All right, so some things that can affect the enzyme and cause it to denature. Again, temperature, so we have the apple that's in the refrigerator, and then we have pH with our kind of Fruit Fresh product with the vitamin C and our lemon juice, and then we also have the salt that can cause the enzymes to denature. So and remember, they all have an optimal temperature and pH, and also salt where they work the best. So bacteria on our skin, where it's kind of salty, they're able to withstand those salty environments. So again, they have an optimal range that's a little higher on the salt concentration, whereas others would be inhibited by it. All right, so again, what we can see here, if we take a look at our apples, what we have are a few different ones. So I want to show, let's get everything together here. And it's only been a few minutes, but again, if you're thinking about having, some kind of event and you want a nice fruit tray, of course you want to prepare everything early, but you don't want it to turn brown and kind of gross before your party. So these are some different things you can do. So you can add a little bit of salt. Of course, that changes the taste a little bit. The lemon juice would also change the shape or change the taste of it a little bit. So the vitamin C, that usually that doesn't really have any taste effect. And of course, you can keep them refrigerated as long as possible. But again, that all changes that enzyme activity. All right, so let's flip around and see. All right, so we can see this was kind of our control here. Let me zoom in a little bit. So you can see that it's starting to turn brown. It's only been a few minutes. And some apples turn brown a lot faster than what other ones do. But again, this is kind of our control. So it's starting to have the brown effect. But then we have our Fruit Fresh that has the ascorbic acid. So it looks nice. It's still clear, no brown product on it. Our lemon juice, also, kind of looking at it, it still looks good. What about our salt down here?
It's probably
yeah, still looks good. So we have that one. Doesn't look maybe quite as good, a little brown there on this side, maybe just didn't get the salt put all over it. And then go ahead and grab the one out of the fridge, please, Elizabeth. So again, these enzymes are being denatured under these different circumstances, so it's preventing that enzyme from working, denatures it, so that we don't get the product. And then here is our one that's in the fridge. So again, looks pretty good, a little brown around the core area there. But again, so temperature, pH, and salt, they can denature these enzymes so they don't work. Right, so that kind of ends us out for the day. Hope you guys have a good day, and we'll see you next week.